It's America's 250th anniversary, and we're celebrating the only way we know how, with bigger savings than ever before at Capital Ford in Santa Fe. Like a new 2025 Ford Bronco Sport Big Bend with 0% APR plus $1,000 down payment assistance. Or a new 2026 Ford Explorer Active with 3.9% APR plus $1,000 down payment assistance during America's 250th anniversary at Capital Ford in Santa Fe.
Good evening. We welcome you to another episode of the Pit Press Live. And tonight we're excited to introduce the very first episode of the season of Huddle Up, a live stream podcast brought to you by the Pit Press Network. I'm your host, Nick Nunez, joined by my dad, Ed Nunez, a lifelong Lobo fan since 1970 and a veteran play-by-play announcer for ProView Networks. On Huddle Up, we're talking high school football. We sit down with players, coaches, referees from around New Mexico, talk to them about their seasons, their accomplishments, and everything that's going on the gridiron. Tonight, we've got a great lineup for our first show. Our first guest is St. Pius head football coach Curtis Flakes, and later in the show, we'll be joined by Volcano Vista head coach Chad Wallen. But Coach Curtis Flakes, welcome to Huddle Up, man. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you guys for the opportunity and being on your show. You guys do a wonderful job, so I'm excited to be on the show.
Appreciate you, Coach. Appreciate you for being here. And we were talking a little bit before the stream started. You guys open up the season on Thursday, 7 p.m., August 20th, Community Stadium against West Mesa. Coach, a lot of hype surrounding your program, deservedly so, over the last couple seasons. How do you feel about your group going into week one, Coach?
You know, I feel pretty confident about our group. Like you alluded to, we definitely got a lot of returners, a veteran group of kids. We got a nice sprinkle of veteran kids with up-and-coming kids. So I'm excited to watch these kids mesh together and see what they have on Thursday night.
Coach, tell us about this matchup with West Mesa. I'll hand this one over to my dad after this. But this is the third season in a row where you guys have opened up the season playing West Mesa. Back in 2024, they got you guys the first time. Then last season, you guys beat them. Coach Landrick Brody is someone that you know pretty well. You guys played at UNM together in the early 2000s. His group is always competitive. And so kind of just preview the matchup for us, Coach. What are the keys to the game for you guys to be successful?
Yeah, it's going to be a great matchup, man. When you talk about those Coach Brody-led teams, those guys are going to be well coached. They're going to be physical. So for us, the keys to that matchup is us staying disciplined, being able to match their physicality, get those explosive plays that we can make offensively, and try to stop their quarterback Jericho Brody. Man, he's a special kid. He's just like his older brother Elijah, definitely similar build. So once we got to put a stop to him.
Dad.
Coach, you know, it's kind of funny. A couple of years ago when we had you on, you didn't want to reveal too much. We'd asked you a couple questions, and if I remember right, you said come to a community stadium because you thought Landrick Brody was probably watching, and I still remember that. So your third time playing against him, and you mentioned Jericho Brody, and when you mentioned that he's built like Elijah, of course, now is playing defensive end for UNM. I don't think he can hear me, Nick. Can you, Nick? You can hear me, right?
I can hear you. I can hear you just fine. Coach, are you able to hear my co-host, Ed Nunez? Is he coming through for you?
No, I can't hear him at all.
Oh, man. Okay.
Let me check.
Dad, why don't you try logging out, logging back in, and then we'll bring you on. I'm not sure what's going on, but if you want to try to log out, log back in. Coach, we'll bring my dad back on. I know he's got some questions for you, but for now, let me ask you a few more. Let me ask you about some of the core guys that you got coming back, Coach. Obviously, Isaiah Carpenter, the New Mexico State commit, threw for 2,500 yards, 28 touchdowns last season. Urshel Alloway Jr., first-team All-State selection, the Albuquerque Journal's Metro Athlete of the Year. But it seems like it's more than that, Coach. You got a lot of guys maybe that some people know about, but that are kind of under the radar. I'm talking about guys like Cy Signs, the freshman running back. Some of the guys you got on the defensive end of the field, Curtis Flakes III, your son, who's a terrific defensive back. Tell us about some of these other under-the-radar guys that some people may not know about that you're excited about for this upcoming season.
Oh, yeah. You know, we're blessed and fortunate to be in the situation that we're in with all these guys that you know, when you look at our program, you think of the Isaiah Carpenters and the Herschel Oliways, who are generational talents. Then you look at these other guys like Cy Signs. As an eighth grader, he played for us on the varsity level, started in the state championship game. And that kid, if it wasn't a Herschel Holloway, it's going to be the Cy Signs show. He's a multi-level athlete that we can put on at running back, slot receiver. Defensively, we got Kane Huffmeyer, who was our district's defensive MVP last year as a sophomore. He's coming back this year. We also got Joaquin Aragon, 3-year starter for us. Ezra Ocampo, who's this is his second season here at St. Pius, and he's going to be starting both ways for us. We're going to be moving that guy around. Another kid that I'm super impressed with is Luke Jones. He's a sophomore, and that kid is special. He can kick, he can punt, he plays quarterback. He's a stud at wide receiver. We got him at linebacker now. He's a kid that you can move anywhere, a good program kid, a yes sir, no sir type guy, works hard, comes with his hard hat and his lunch pail every day. So we got so many young guys, and that's not even getting into our offensive and defensive line guys that we got as returning starters. A couple guys that's been 2-3 year starters for us up front on the offense and defensive line. Ethan Machinger, Lucas Saavedra, Chase Nelson, the list just goes on. So we're blessed this year.
Dad, give it another shot, man. See if your audio is working.
Coach, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you now.
Coach, you mentioned the guy that you mentioned that can punt, pass, and kick. You remember that old contest, man? Punt, pass, and kick. Yeah. You brought that up. I had to laugh about that. My son is way too young to remember that. But Coach, you did lose. This is you built a culture of winning there at St. Pius. Runner up the last 2 years, and Bloomfield we know is reloading. They've lost a lot, but Mike Kovacs has done a good job there. Now you mentioned signs. You mentioned some. You've got playmakers in Carpenter, and you mentioned generational guys that certainly rank up there with some of the best players St. Pius has ever had. You did lose Cale Cox-Liggins, and I'm just kind of interested to know. It's a big loss, but you think with your slot receiver signs, you should be okay. I mean, Cale Cox-Liggins was over 1,000, I believe, for both seasons.
Consecutive seasons, yep.
Yeah, long rangey receiver, went up and ran all the routes on the route tree. But you think with signs you're going to be okay. I mean, Cale Cox was a big receiver, but tell us a little bit more about signs.
I mean, you got Cy Signs, and he's just a special kid. Once you watch him play, he's a quiet kid. He rarely says much, but he's since he's been an eighth grader, he conducts himself like he's a senior in college. He's very professional, business oriented, works hard to master his craft. You also got Christian Morales out there, who is the purest route runner that you'll see on the high school level, a guy that could run a route. You can't tell when he's breaking and out. He's in and out of cuts. So we got Christian Morales out there. And then you throw in that Luke Jones, who we can put in the slot. You got Curtis Flakes out there, as well as Nolan Payton and Luke Danella, who's another young kid, 2 sophomores for us that have really, truly impressed. We're pretty deep. This is the deepest that we have been at the skill position since I've been here in my 4 years. So we're really excited about this group.
And you're saying that, Coach, with the loss of Cale Cox-Liggins, you're still saying that you feel like you're the deepest you've been.
Yeah, we're deep. I mean, you can't replace a Cale Cox-Liggins, right? He's a special kid. I mean, at 6'4", I talked to him 2 nights ago. I was in contact with him, and he's gotten up to like 175, 180 pounds. You can't replace a guy like Cale Cox-Liggins, but just like I told Coach Ocampo when Cale came and met with me in my office and let me know that he was transferring to Arizona, I told him, there's no one person in our program that can replace Cale Cox-Liggins, but what we can do is equally distribute that ball amongst all these guys that we got. So the loss of Cale hurts. It also provides other opportunities for kids to step up, and that's what kids have been doing this spring and this summer.
You built that, Coach. You've coached that, winning culture there at St. Pius. I've got another question, then I'll turn it back over to my son. New district coach, and it's a strong one. Pius, Lovington, Belen, Albuquerque Academy, Portales, Santa Teresa, who came down, Valencia, in Rio Grande, and Lovington. They want some championships. This is going to be a very strong district, a very interesting one. Your comments on that?
Yeah, very strong district, and You couldn't ask for a better district. I always want to go against the best, and I feel like our district is the best. When you say at the different levels you got from between Lovington, what Coach Lee is doing over there at Albuquerque Academy, as you know, they got us last year. You talk about Portales, and then Coach Cage doing a phenomenal job with the numbers and the kids that he got out there. So it's definitely going to be a super competitive district. We like that. We enjoy that. We feel like it prepares us for the postseason. So it's gonna be a good. I'm excited to see how it all falls out at the end of the year. We play Lovington the last week, and so I pray and I hope it's for a district title. But I'm just we're just excited about this opportunity that we get.
Coach, again, you've had postseason success. You expect to have it again. So I'm anxious to see some of these games, man. I think it's going to be a very strong district. And as you mentioned, Pius has proven their worth the last 2 years. They're going to be there in the thick of things. Go ahead, son.
Go to the comments. Coach Justin Martinez, 8350. Flakes, best of luck this year, except week 1 against my man, Coach Brody. So we appreciate the comment, Justin Martinez. Coach, on the subject of Class 4A, my dad asked you about the district, but let me ask you about the class. Some realignment by the NMAA. I want to say there's 16 teams in 4A. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I may be off by a couple. But Lovington comes down from Class 5A. You got. I think Wallin is going to be in there as well in Class 4A. And so just kind of tell us how you think you stack up, Coach, because you guys have been chasing Bloomfield for the last couple seasons, been in the state title games 2 years in a row. What do you think about the competition level of Class 4A and where you guys kind of fall?
I mean, I love the 4A class. A lot of people think that, especially like when you talk about these kids, and they think you have to play at the 6A level to have success and go off to college and all that other stuff. But 4A, we're competitive. We're dogs down here. Adding those teams like Lovington in the mix, and of course you got the Bloomfields and the Belins and Valley is down there now too. So we're loaded, and I think Rio Grande as well. So it's a loaded class. It's just going to be competitive each week. There's really no, and no offense to 6A, but I look at it, I'm like, well, Cleveland going to be in the state championship every single year because those guys are loaded with 3,000 kids in the hallways and all that other good stuff. But with the 4A, it's truly hard to tell because it really is any given Friday night. And so I love being at the 4A level. I think it's the most competitive out of all leagues, and I'm just blessed and fortunate enough to be a part of it.
No doubt, Coach. Next question I got for you is about your schedule. Channel 4, Devin Martin, they did a great job on a feature on you guys last week. And you were talking about your pre-district schedule. You got 2 out-of-state teams. You guys are going to travel to California in week 2. You'll play Holtville, which is a city outside of San Diego. And then the following week, you're going to travel up north, and you're going to play Pagosa Springs, a team from Southern Colorado. Tell us, how you guys got these games scheduled and how you think this will prepare you for your district season.
Yeah, so, this goes back to just about 4 years ago when I sat down with Mr. Cook, the athletic director, and talked with Mr. Dilly, and they identified me as a person they felt like I could help bring our program not just to bring us up to one of the top programs in the state, but also in the country. And so that's been our long-term vision, is having a preseason schedule where we face out-of-state schools. And so this is just the beginning phase of that. This year we got 2. We also have locked in for next year and the year after that with a 2-year block with a team out of Arizona. So that's just our long-term goal, is to be able to make St. Pius here in Albuquerque a national brand. As you know, we got multiple schools throughout the country, but we want to be the best St. Pius school. So this is just the beginning stages of that, along with our stadium being built and us trying to make this a national brand and make it a school that all kids want to go to, from New Mexico to out of state. We want to be the forerunners in that.
No doubt, Coach. That makes sense. I'm going to ask one more, then I'll turn it back to my dad. But I want to go back a little bit and ask you about kind of the success you guys have had over the last 2 seasons. You guys have lost 5 games in the last 2 seasons, 2 of those being to Bloomfield in the state championship game. What do you think you guys have learned, Coach? Because it's been tough. Bloomfield is kind of that juggernaut of Class 4A. You guys have been chasing them the last 2 years. But in those 2 state title games, what do you think you guys have learned, and how do you think that makes you prepared to make a serious run to finish out the journey here this year and get that blue trophy, Coach?
I mean, we learned a lot. You know, you tend to learn a lot more in your losses than you do your wins, right? So we were able to take a step back and reflect on our season, think about the things that worked well for us and the things that didn't work well. We were able to, once again, increase our numbers in the program and get more kids out, and us being more deep at positions. I think that'll be helpful for us. But mainly it's just one of those things where we just keep trusting and believing in God and letting it be His will and not ours, and not try to control the situation, but allow things to fall out the way they were meant to be. And we truly believe that. And like I said, we blessed. I'm blessed with a great coaching staff, blessed with great players, and blessed with an administration and a good community in St. Pius that believe in supporting us. So we're going to take all that, put that together in hopes that, you know, it brings us out on the winning side of a blue trophy. And if not, it's God's will. We're going to trust in that and believe in that. And we're going to focus on the next thing and just keep moving forward.
Dad.
You know, Coach, I think that's really all you can do. You mentioned you've built that program, and my son, and you know, and seeing that X reminds me when my son went there. He graduated in 2010, coached there, spent a lot of time there. So, but you're looking to build Pius at another level, and I think that's, you know, important. There's been some great coaches there in the past. You know, Ray Janine San Juan Mendoza. The last Pius winner, and I remember when they beat Artesia that day. We covered that game, and Pius quarterback Drew Ortiz had a phenomenal game, man. He really did. You know, so that's Pius's last title, and you're shooting for that. And I think you've done all the right things. It gets you said this, Coach. You looked at your class, and you look at 6A, and the sledding gets a little bit tougher, right? With Lovington, and you know, Bloomfield is a mark for sure, but you know, you bring in a Lovington. And there's just, and Coach, you mentioned, you got to take it one game at a time. Pius is a mark with Carpenter all the way. You mentioned the skill players on offense and defense. Mm-hmm. So I think you've done a wonderful job in building the program and having the faith in what you're going to do. But I gotta ask you this, Coach. You mentioned this. Pius in the back in the day, I think I told you my older brother went there. My sister went there. I went there 1 year. Then I went to Highland. Played at the sports stadium, right? Back when it was the Duke Stadium. I don't know if you remember that. Then they played at Community Stadium, Milne. What's it going to mean to the program to have your own stadium? And we read about it in the paper. We know Mr. Cook very well. You know, my son's very familiar with Pius, so am I. What's it going to mean to the program to have your own stadium? It's off in the future, but what's it going to mean?
Man, it's going to mean so much to this community. You know, Mr. Cook, Mr. Dilly, who's been spearheading this, they just done a phenomenal job. You know, when I got here, I kept hearing, you know, they've been talking about building a stadium for years now. When is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? And now they're actually broke ground, and we got the building that was obstructing it tore down. And it's just going to mean so much to this community. We'll be able to do so much more as far as like not just sporting events, but just holding community events for the Pius community, and having a stadium on your own campus that's just life-changing, right? And it's just one of those things that we hope brings in more athletes to our program. As one of the premier programs in the state, you should have your own stadium, and that's what Pius is doing. We're putting our stamp on it, like we're committed to it. We're committed to athletics and sports, as well as of course our academics is one of the top in the state. So we're just committed from not just the academic side, but the athletic side. And this stadium is proving that. And we hope that it gets more butts and seats in these classrooms so that they can participate in play in this beautiful, beautiful stadium that you're seeing right here. It's going to be a great place to play.
Yeah, no doubt about it. They'll use it for track and soccer. And, you know, Pius for years in soccer has been a powerhouse. And, and Coach, you know, again, I'll do credit to you and your coaching staff to what you built there. And I think, you know, we had you on last year. And if you look at Coach Eck at UNM, the culture he's building there, it's not easy. It really isn't. People think it's easy to win games. You've got the players, sure, but the coaching and the developing and the faith-driven program that you run there, that's a lot to do with it too. I think, you know, there's a lot of football left to be played. Of course, you're just starting this year. But one last question, I'll turn it over to my son. In Isaiah Carpenter and Herschel Holloway, you got two of the best skill players in the state. Mm-hmm. You know, Herschel Holloway can run outside. He can run between the tackles. a UNM signee, Isaiah Carpenter. He's grown so much, Coach. He's grown so much, man. And it's important to note, too, that game against Bloomfield, the first one at halftime, you were in the lead. People may have forgotten that. I did the game. Pius led at the half, and then Bloomfield came out and made some adjustments. But how important is it for you to have that title run, to have two of these skilled players, two of the best in the state?
I mean, it's very important, right? Just the expectations that these two carried on their shoulders, as well as the rest of the team, is we're expected to win games. We're expected to be one of the top programs in the state. And when you think about these high school athletes these days and having that amount of pressure, it's a lot for a young man to carry. But, we just try to keep our kids grounded and let them know that, hey, all we got to do is us versus us, focus on us, get 1% better every day. Don't try to take too much. Don't try to be the hero and do all these extraordinary things. Just be you. Just relax, play, and be you. Let's have fun. Turn it to some, young man pitch and catch football that you grew up doing. So, I've just been tremendously impressed with these guys and the way they carry themselves and how they still try to lead their team and do all the things the right way and bring guys on a journey. We got so many guys in the locker room that stepped up to be leaders, so these two don't have to feel like they're carrying the burden on their shoulders, and coaches stepped up. It's just been a community effort thing that like I said, I'm blessed to be a part of.
They've been through it, Coach. They've been through the grind, man. Yeah. They've been in 2 championship games, and they may have come up on the short end, but those kind of experiences. I remember the first championship at Bloomfield, man. That was, a great crowd, right? Same thing last year at Community Stadium. I think they scored on their second play, and you scored on your first play, if I remember right. Yep. Herschel took it, for 80 yards around left end. Coach, can't tell you how much I admire your program and how you built it. And, we sure wish you all the best, for this season and beyond, because I think you're doing things the right way in developing and coaching and, your belief in your system. Everybody's got a belief in it. And I think that you've proven that. You've proven you can win. You've developed players there, not only as far as football players, but men, leaders. And so we're looking forward to seeing you again this year. It's going to be a lot of points on the board over there at St. Pius for sure. What did Bloomfield average last year? 55 a game.
Yeah.
So when I talked to Mike, man, to Coach Kovacs, I'm like, wow. But they lost a lot too. They did. They lost quite a bit, and they're reloading. So should be a very interesting season in 4A for sure. Son, go ahead.
Coach, really appreciate your time. Again, we're speaking with Curtis Flakes, the head football coach at St. Pius X. His Sartans open up with West Mesa on Wednesday, 7 p.m. at Community Stadium. Coach, one thing I came across this summer, it was a tweet that you put out in mid-July, and it was about your quarterback, Isaiah Carpenter. And we've talked about him a lot on this podcast. He deserves every single accolade that he gets. But one thing you said on X, Coach, was that, Isaiah Carpenter is arguably the best quarterback in the state of New Mexico, regardless of class. Just because he doesn't play at La Cueva, just because he doesn't play at Cleveland and in 6A doesn't mean he can't be the best quarterback in the state. You've seen Isaiah this will be the 4th year now that you're coaching him. Tell our viewers why Isaiah Carpenter is arguably the best quarterback in the state of New Mexico.
I mean, you look at Isaiah, and not even looking at his size at 6'5", 215 pounds, that's in itself is like just crazy for a high school quarterback. But his preparation, his football IQ is off the radar. He's a very intelligent, smart kid. He's a leader. His faith in God and how he openly confess that and lead our prayer groups on our pregame days. I mean, he's just a great kid. And you don't get many kids like that with his arm strength, and just he's the ideal kid that you want in your program, not just athletically, but also just from his mindset and the way he carries himself. He's set to graduate early here in December and head off to New Mexico State. So he's just the best. I mean, look at his numbers. Look at everything he's done. In the last 2 years, he's led our team to a 20-4 record, right? And so The kid wins games. You put him in a game, he put us in position to be successful and win games, and he makes everybody else around him better. That's why you know of Kel Cox-Liggins. That's why you know of Curtis Flakes. His ability to pass the ball allows Herschel Holloway to do what he do, and also help out with our offensive line, just because he can make those quick reads and get the ball out to the right person at the right time. So, if people have any doubt, come to our game on Thursday and watch him work. If they have any doubt, come to all our games and you check him out and you watch his playmaking ability, him being able to tuck the ball and run when he wants to run. Can't nobody put a ball on the rope like Isaiah Carpenter can and throw from the bottom number of the numbers on one side of the field and hit a guy wide open on the other side of the field. Can't too many guys do that. And I will tell you, the quarterback and coach at New Mexico, he coached New Mexico State. He coached Jordan Love. He coached Justin Herbert.
Wow.
He coached two or three other NFL guys who have had successful careers in the NFL. And he ranks Isaiah Carpenter up there with one of the as the top as from where he is at a high school athlete. So when you have a guy like that who've coached guys like that can say, Coach, if I line up the top 100 quarterbacks in the country right now at a high school, Isaiah Carpenter's in the top 3, easy. And I mean, his play is proof of that.
No doubt, Coach. The numbers don't lie. He's got the physical tools to play at the D1 level. I think he was a little under-recruited, but New Mexico State sure is lucky to have Isaiah Carpenter, and you're lucky to have him for one more season. We're excited for your season, Coach. Myself and our producer behind the scenes, Eric Moulton, will be calling the game for ProView Networks on Thursday. So we wish you the best of luck, Coach, on Thursday and for the rest of the season. Dad, you got anything else for Coach Flakes?
No, same thing. And, I laughed when we had you on a couple years ago. You were very close to the chest about revealing anything because you thought Landrick might be watching, man. And I love Landrick, too. He's a good man.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You guys matching wits like that. It's going to be a great game. It's been a great game the last 2 years. So we wish you all the luck, Coach. And once again, thank you for joining us on Huddle Up.
Thank you, and God bless you guys, and be safe. And we look forward to seeing you guys Thursday.
God bless you, Coach. We're going to take a quick commercial break here on Huddle Up. When we return, we'll be joined by Volcano Vista head football coach Chad Wallen. This is the Pit Press Live.
It's America's 250th anniversary, and we're celebrating the only way we know how, with bigger savings than ever before at Capital Ford in Santa Fe. Like a new 2025 Ford Bronco Sport Big Bend with 0% APR plus $1,000 down payment assistance. Or a new 2026 Ford Explorer Active with 3.9% APR plus $1,000 down payment assistance during America's 250th anniversary at Capital Ford in Santa Fe.
Welcome back to Huddle Up. Our coverage of New Mexico football continues here on the Pit Press Live. We are now joined by Volcano Vista head coach Chad Wallen. Coach Wallen, thank you for joining us tonight. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Of course, Coach, of course. And, of course, my dad, legendary play-by-play announcer for ProView Networks. So appreciate you, Dad, for getting Coach Wallen on. Coach, you open up with Atrisco Heritage on Friday, 7 p.m., Community Stadium. Tell us how you feel about your team coming into the season, Coach.
Pretty excited. Very pleased with the body of work during the off season. It's when you're better athletes or the guys you're depending on to lead your artist program. Really, that's the really been that really long off season, and pretty excited to get game one going this week.
Yeah. And Coach, James Yotis does a great job of covering New Mexico high school football. He's written a couple pieces about your program. But one thing, obviously a huge shift in Class 6A. There's now 2 super districts now, and I think there's 8 teams in it. You guys get moved to the district down south with Las Cruces, Hobbs, all the Las Cruces schools. You and El Dorado are going to be traveling south. Tell us how you think your team shakes out in this new District 2 6A, Coach.
Just a different set of challenges. Cruces has been really, really good 2 or 3 years. So having to play those guys, Centennial, interesting. I've been coaching in this state for 27 years and have never coached against Centennial. So I'm very excited about that. Have to go down and play Hobbs, have to go play Carlsbad. So, the challenge is a little bit different for us than what we've had in the last 10 years, whereas we'd had one out-of-town game a year the last 10 years or 15 years. And now all of a sudden we're going to get on the bus and go 3 or 4 or 5 hours 3 different times. So it's a different set of challenges. And we're kind of excited about it. With some of these schools we haven't played very often. So, Carlsbad's a cool environment. Hobbs is a great environment. So kind of excited about it.
Dad.
Coach, how you doing, man? Been a while.
Good, Ed. How you doing, man?
All right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's always good seeing you, man. We don't get a chance to see each other very much, but it's always good to catch up. Last year you had Jude Herrera as your quarterback. You had some injury issues there last year, but what does it look like for him this year? You also have a receiver, Aurelius Wiley. So How does you mentioned Jude, and Jude is a good quarterback, but you got to keep your quarterback upright. Sometimes injuries happen. How does that combination look for you this year?
Yeah, excited about it. Jude's a freaking stud, and he was starting at linebacker for us as a sophomore last year, and he was kind of the quarterback that got about 5 or 6 plays of practice, if that, because we had Spirit Cook and Aurelius Wiley were our quarterbacks, and Spirit broke his collarbone 3rd quarter of the first game. Aurelius breaks his collarbone, I believe, by halftime of the 6th game. And here comes Jude Herrera as a sophomore, and he has to start against Rio Rancho and Cleveland as his first high school quarterbacking gigs. And it didn't take long in those games to watch him with his leadership abilities, just how slow the game is in his mind. Like, he's been around football a lot. And his maturity and his leadership and the way he conducts himself has made it very comfortable for us to leave Aurelius at slot receiver and try to utilize his talents all over the place while Jude, mans the quarterback position.
So you think you got some stability there. You also mentioned a sophomore running back, Jude Gonzalez. You lost to D'Angelo Mitchell, but you're very high on Jude Gonzalez. Tell us a little bit about him.
Yeah, Jude's a young kid. He's about to be a sophomore, but he's got good size. And we've been blessed. We've had a stable of running backs the last couple of years. And when D'Lo decided he wanted to go to Cleveland, sitting around trying to decide what we were going to do with our depth chart from there, we became very comfortable, instantly comfortable with the guys we have. And watching Jude take the reins at that spot has really been calming in my mind, knowing that we're going to be just fine there. And, Zach Soto plays running back as well. So between those two, it might be addition by subtraction, because now we have 2 guys that'll be in the game running the ball, a little bit more than if we'd had the other kid where we were just having one running back. You know what I mean?
You know what? That's interesting, because sometimes through the, silver cloud lining, silver cloud, the whole thing. Because as a coaching staff, when you lose a player like that, you had to get together. What are we going to do? We're not going to stop the season, right? We're going to keep moving on. And if you feel like you're going to have a 1-2 pop there, maybe like you said, it might work out better for the Hawks this year. No disrespect to D'Angelo Mitchell at all. He's a very good player, but there's also some other gems that you have there, and you've got to be happy about that. But you also mentioned, Coach, and this is important, man. We know that games are won in the trenches. You talked about your offensive line, and sometimes we don't hear enough about the linemen until they're called the flag for holding, or you're right, we don't hear enough about them. Tell us about your offensive line. You feel good about it. Tell us about that.
I do. Super good mixture, and they mesh well, of 2 or 3 seniors that have been around and started for us and a lot of game reps. We've got a really athletic junior tackle and Chris Tarter, and then we've got a couple sophomores with a lot of size. The bigger kids on our team are sophomores that'll play a whole lot. And with the offensive line, we've kind of taken the approach of, instead of 5 starters, we're going to have 7 that we're going to rotate and try to keep healthy and try to develop as the season goes on. Because when we get to the dog days of district, later in district and into the playoffs, those kids that are sophomores are really juniors if they get 5 or 6 games under their belts. So super excited about those guys. And they've really gelled with our new offensive line coach and really kind of bought into his philosophies and his teaching. And there's a lot of continuity there that I'm pretty excited about.
Do you feel better about the run blocking, pass blocking, or you feel good about both?
I feel good about both, but I mean, every good football coach wants to run the ball first. So we teach those guys to really get on somebody, lean on them, and try to move them.
If you got 7 good offensive linemen, I'll tell you one thing: that's something. People are looking for that. And, people you can rotate into. That's definitely a benefit for Volcano Vista, son.
Yeah, Coach, want to switch gears and ask you a little bit about what you got on the defensive side of the ball. I think it's anchored by the linebacker, Aiden Gonzalez, but tell us a little bit more about some of the playmakers you guys have on defense and how you think you guys will be on that side of the ball.
Yeah, getting up front in our defensive line, it's the first time we've got a few new kids that same thing with the D-line. In the trenches, we try to rotate quite a bit. So we're looking for 5 or 6 very athletic defensive linemen. We're canceling gaps and trying to get upfield and, try to maximize those kids' ability to be disruptive. We've got 3 or 4 guys right now that we're really comfortable with, but where we're really kind of making our setting our bank is our linebacking crew is almost entirely back from last year. Xavier Hansen was an all-district inside linebacker. Max Markham, really holds down the inside of our backers. And again, last year, we had 2 or 3 kids get injured. We're playing Rio Rancho, and we have a sophomore that has to start that game named Jashad Douglas. And the kid, all of a sudden, it's like you said, all of a sudden they get an opportunity. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, look what that kid can do. And you get to see what kind of ability he has when the game's going. But Aiden's kind of the catalyst. Aiden's played for us since he was an 8th grader. Now he's going into his junior year. He made the transition from free safety to outside linebacker, where we feel like he's makes a more of an impact on the game, both in pass rush, run defense, and playing in the secondary a little bit. And then we have Hudson Brown at free safety, who started almost every game for us last year, and I think broke the record for 3 picks in a game. So I just feel like even on defense, we have a very good mesh, seniors and juniors and a couple sophomores filling in that they just they mesh together real well.
So, yeah, definitely, Coach. It sounds like you guys are going to be stacked on that side of the ball as well. Coach, you told us about moving into District 2, 6A, looking at your pre-district schedule. You got a Trisco Heritage, who you open up with. Then you got a rivalry game against Cibola. And then you got La Cueva, a team that you guys were competitive with last year. But, Coach, just kind of tell us, this schedule is obviously different. You're out of that district with Cleveland and Rio Rancho and all the West Side schools. So it's just a little bit different, Coach. How do you think you guys stack up with the schedule that you got put together?
Like I said, it's just a different set of challenges. Getting off the bus after a 3-hour drive, sometimes how you get off the bus dictates how you play. Hobbs is damn near 6 hours. So we're gonna kind of be the road warriors, and so for us it's going to be about preparation. We feel like talent-wise, we should be in every ball game, and we're going to play some really talented schools down there. And so our approach this year is being a lot more prepared, a lot more film study with the boys, especially with these teams that we don't know very well. You play La Cueva, and they run the same offense and same defense year in and year out. If you play Cleveland, it's the same thing. You get to know these guys so well, and they know you so well, that now it's interesting. Going to have a chance to, go against 5 or 6 schools that we don't see very often. So we're going to have to coach our butts off and be prepared pretty well.
Dad,
Coach, I think it's always a challenge when you mentioned hitting the roads are way different, man. It's a lot different. You play at community stadium, and that's your home base. But when you get off you go to Hobbs, and you got 6 hours, and kids are kids, they get antsy, and heck, adults get antsy after that long bus ride. So I think the thing is, you mentioned those new challenges. We just had Curtis Flakes on, and he was talking about, Lovington's coming down. He's got, Bloomfield has beaten him the last 2 times, but there's other obstacles in the way, man. It's just not, it's just not Bloomfield. So I think, you built a culture out there, Coach. How many years now, Volcano Vista? How many years?
This is year 20.
Oh my goodness! So you built a culture there. What has been the biggest change? Again, things have changed. You mentioned new challenges every year. You sent a lot of players off to the college ranks. What's been the biggest challenge all through those 20 years? And meeting those challenges, new district, new teams. What's been the biggest challenge you've had to face?
As I've gotten older, connecting with kids, the generations are different, and connecting with them is a whole lot different. The kids used to be taught, line up, and kids were scared to talk, say anything, because they were going to line up as quickly as possible. And, now the personality is so out there, and, connecting with kids is a little different. I definitely am not as cool as I thought I was a long time ago in connecting with kids. But, it is. It's one of those things that I think the better connection you have with your team, the harder they'll play for you, and the more they'll buy into you. And I would say coaching, it hasn't been the X's and O's, in my opinion. It's connecting with the kids, trying to get them to play at their best. The challenges these kids face nowadays is always kind of popping up in the locker room, and, social media and what's weighing on their mind. And, we got dads who are mad their kids aren't starting, and they're talking to them in the stands. And, it's different. It's been that connection that I feel like I've had to learn and come up with a new philosophy or adapt my philosophy as the years have gone on.
I think social media is, you mentioned that, and then COVID, when COVID hit, I think that was a big challenge for teachers, coaches, administrators, kids. It was a huge challenge. The way you taught, the way you learned. We learned in a conventional way. You did, I did, my son did. So when you had to go online and come back it disrupted learning. It did. I don't know that we've yet recovered from that. So I think you're right. Connecting with kids. I think I'm super cool, and I'm old, man. Right? I'm 64, man, and I still I think I can connect with kids. But you know what? I'm way older now, man. I am. But there's always been a gift to be able to do that. But I'm not around enough anymore to do that on a consistent basis. So I think that's something that's a definite challenge. That you have to keep working on and finding different ways to motivate. I think one of the things you said, I went to Highland, right? And Coach Gentry back in the day, this is way back in the day, there was no, he just gave orders, boom, and you did it, and so now it's a lot of different ways of connecting. You mentioned that, and it's a big challenge. And I think you've built a great program there, and have learned and adapted to new ways to adapt to today's athlete. It can't be easy sometimes, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's just challenges. And I think, if you go back and ask those coaches back then, and they talked about our generations and the challenges we presented to them, it's the same thing. And these kids have their strengths, and they have things that they've got to work on. And I crack out an analogy from 10 years ago, and they don't have any idea what I'm talking about. We used to have defensive calls, Maverick and Goose. And before the new Top Gun came out 4 or 5 years ago, they didn't know who the hell we were talking about. Yeah, so it's funny. We've got to adapt just as much as we expect them to nowadays.
That's funny because, my wife and I still watch that movie, Top Gun, and my son saw it. So, and you're right. They don't have an idea. And I think one of the things I got to comment on is social media. When I officiated high school basketball, it wasn't a big deal, right? Now it's they actually put my name in the paper one time for a call they didn't like, and that was years ago. And that was before social media. So social media, you're right. People talking in the stands, that's another thing. That's a whole different thing that's changed as far as communication. But I got to ask you this, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. Okay. The new transfer rule. I mean, do you have an opinion? And look, you lost one. People are going to lose some. That the Trisco Heritage, they lost a couple of really good players. Do you have an opinion of that one way or the other?
I think the intent of the rule was right. One of the perfect examples. We were at a 7-on-7 this year, and I know Coach Salinas over at Hope pretty well, and we were watching his team, and he's got a freshman quarterback that can really sling it, and the kid's very, very good. And I was, this thing popped up about the transfer, and if you're a 8th grader that's enrolled or another freshman that plays quarterback there, and you're never going to get a shot because of that kid's ability. I feel like the chance for you to move on one time to find a spot where you can play is appropriate, especially in today's day and age. But again, people don't use it for the way it was intended. You know what I mean? We've got people that are just chasing rings instead of earning a ring type of thing. And it's easy to jump ship to a place and go and try to build super teams or do whatever. But that's not what the rule is intended for. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like the NIL deal with college sports for me is I feel like something needed to be done, but to not have any regulations on it it's kind of creating it's going to create a mess. So I'm on the fence about it because when it's used the right way, I'm okay with it, but it's just not. People they're going to use it for their own advantages and chase rings and that kind of thing, and that's what makes it hard for me.
Yeah, no, and that's fully understood because the rich could, and again, nothing against Coach Garza, Coach Tyler Wallin, nothing against them. They run great programs over there, and Cleveland benefited from some transfers. So did San Diego, but there's other teams too. And you mentioned there's going to be other. You mentioned the kid at Hope. He's not going anywhere for the next 3 years. So somebody behind him might want to take a chance somewhere else. I understand that. You're right with that intent there. I get it. But we just had to ask you. I appreciate you answering that, Coach. Son, you got anything else?
Yeah, Coach, just wanted to ask you a little bit about some Volcano Vista alum that have gone on to the next level and had some success. Obviously, the most popular name is Diego Pavia. He was your quarterback in 2020 and led you guys to an undefeated season. The run came to an end in the postseason. And then, you got a linebacker. I think he's still on the roster for UNM, Thomas Pettis Jr., who's had some success at UNM. But just talk to us a little bit about some of the guys that have graduated from your program that you've followed along the way and how proud you are of the success they've had.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely gets you, makes you proud when you see these guys go on. Diego obviously had a phenomenal college career, notoriety in the public eye. I can only think of one. I think we were talking about this last time. New Mexico had a Heisman candidate, and I believe it was Jim Everett in the 80s. So, super proud of Diego. And, the people that dislike how he did things or whatever have an opinion. Again, with social media, everybody's got an opinion. So you got to, have a thick skin about that. But it's very exciting to watch. Like Cody Moon went to UNM and into San Diego State. We had a center that went down to New Mexico State in 2016 or 17 and started for them at center, Brian Trujillo. And that was the first New Mexico State team to win a bowl game since the 60s or 70s. I think they won the Tucson Bowl. Right now in college, I was just down, Thomas is doing such a phenomenal job at UNM that, we have two kids down at New Mexico State, and Latrell Treadwell and my son Nathan are down at New Mexico State playing. Tyler Martinez just transferred from New Mexico State to Colorado, University of Colorado, plays for Deion Sanders. So, there's a lot of them, and it's exciting to talk to them and chat with them and super proud of them. And to know that they were Hawks, definitely makes your chin stand a little higher.
No doubt, Coach. Again, we're speaking with Chad Wallen, head football coach for Volcano Vista High School. Coach, just one more question from me. The schedule's set. You guys start the season on Friday. What do you guys got to do, Coach, to have some success, make a deep run in the postseason? As you stand here today, what's it going to take for you guys to have the success you want to have this year?
Seriously, it sounds cliche, and I heard Coach Dotson talking about it the other day on a show, but it is seriously one game at a time. We got to treat each game as an opportunity, go out there and compete as hard as we can and try to get W's, obviously. I'd love to get through this season. Last year was such a wreck in injury-wise, and that was really tough and one of those challenges that we had to try to overcome, and thought we did a great job of it. And, this year, hopefully stay healthy and get better week by week so that we can make a run when the playoffs come. I think we're talented enough that we're going to be right in the mix for district. And then, be playing your best ball when state hits.
Dad.
No, just take Coach. Good, I think I had you on the sports desk like 3-4 years ago, so it's good to have you back on. Yeah. We appreciate you joining us, and look forward to calling some of your games this year for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. I love talking ball with you, so thank you.
For sure. I was Volcano Vista head coach Chad Wallen. Coach, once again, thank you for being with us. We wish you the best of luck on Friday. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back on Huddle Up.
It's America's 250th anniversary, and we're celebrating the only way we know how, with bigger savings than ever before at Capital Ford in Santa Fe. Like a new 2025 Ford Bronco Sport Big Bend with 0% APR plus $1,000 down payment assistance. Or a new 2026 Ford Explorer Active with 3.9% APR plus $1,000 down payment assistance during America's 250th anniversary at Capital Ford in Santa Fe.
Welcome back to Huddle Up on the Pit Press Live. I'm Nick Nunez, joined by Ed Nunez. Our producer behind the scenes is Eric Moulton. Dad, two great guests in St. Pius head coach Curtis Flakes and Volcano Vista head coach Chad Wallen did a great job of previewing their teams, their upcoming games, and I think it's going to be an exciting high school football season this year.
You know what? It's like when Eric and I went to the Mountain West Conference, everybody's 0-0. So you get the excitement and the feel of what they can do. If you look at Coach Flakes, and I'll get to Coach Wallen here in a minute. Nick, you were there at Pius for years. You saw Coach. You were already graduated, but San Juan Mendoza ran a good program there. I go back to when Ray Giannini was there. Big Ray, man. The late Ray Giannini was a great coach. And you look at Coach Flakes, and Nick, he mentioned that you got some of the best skill players, regardless of class, in the state. And Isaiah Carpenter and Herschel Holloway. They're both signed with New Mexico and New Mexico State, respectively. So, and I love the way he talks about developing. He's got a very faith-driven program. You went to Pius. You understand that. So he's got Bloomfield, right, circled. But then you talk about Lovington. Hey, Lovington, you and I did that championship a couple years ago in Portales, where they beat Portales and beat them pretty good at Eastern New Mexico's field. So there's so many challenges there in that class. I just think the world of him, the way he runs his program. I really do. And then, you talk about Coach Wallin. He's been there for 20 years. And, no sour grapes with one of his running backs transferred to Cleveland. He looks at it as an opportunity. And I think any coach has to do that, because you can't sit there and wallow in the mire. You have to get ready to hey, son, he plays with Cleveland, Rio Rancho. You look at Cleveland, got D'Angelo Mitchell, the running back. They got a lineman from Rio Rancho and another player from Rio Rancho to an already loaded team that's the defending champions. So Coach Wallen, I think, has done a great job there at Volcano Vista, and I'm glad we had him on. He's excited about the season too.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Two great guests. My take on Curtis Flakes, man. I mean, he runs a great program there. He's got a lot of talent, a lot of athletes, but it's not just that, man. I think he does it the right way. He's got a great coaching staff. I called a couple Pius games last year, called their semifinal win over Chaparral, and just kind of the community that he's built on that team. It's not just the talent, it's the camaraderie and the X's and O's that him and his staff instill. And so excited for what St. Pius can do, man. There's a lot of hype surrounding that team this year. But the 4A class is going to be tough. James Yotis with the Albuquerque Journal came out with his previews this week. He previewed 4A today. Also check out the Pit Press. Former writer for the Rio Rancho Observer, Dan Allison, has been writing some class previews for us. He previewed class 4A today, and courtesy of Eric Moulton, our producer, for getting that up. So go check that out on our website again at thepitpressnm.com. But Dad, that 4A class is going to be tough, man. Bloomfield, according to James Yotis' article, and I think Dan Allison touched on this too in our article, they lost a lot from last year. They're going to have a brand new quarterback. Peanut Chavarria graduated from last year. They had some skill position guys graduate from last year. But Coach Kovacs, who you know pretty well, was quoted in James Yotis' story in the Albuquerque Journal saying, hey, I've had to replace my quarterback for the last 20 years. I'm not worried about it. And it's kind of the same thing up there, man. You know, in any sport, basketball, baseball, football, soccer, when you've got an established program that's been a winner for as long as Bloomfield has in Class 4A, you think about girls soccer, Class 4A, Amy Fankum, Hope Christian. There's this thing called championship moxie where you got to knock off the champion. And Bloomfield, kind of regardless of the kids that come up, they know how to win and they expect to win. So even though you got Lovington coming down from 5A, you've got Belen coming down from 5A, Rio Grande's going to be in the class now. I think it's going to be tough, man. I think St. Pius is going to be in the mix with Lovington and a bunch of other schools. And I think, like Coach Flakes was saying, that 4A class is going to be exciting to watch.
You know, I think one of the things you mentioned that's most important, son, is the winning culture. You mentioned about Bloomfield. The other thing, Nick, is numbers. They've got numbers, man. You know, they've got the numbers there with those programs. Bloomfield's in the Four Corners area. The Aztec plays out there, but they've definitely got the numbers in their program. So that helps too. So, but I think you're right about that. There's so many things that you got to look at as far as Bloomfield. That team is so. But then Lovington, like you mentioned, comes down. I think Coach Flakes is very confident. When they lost Cale Cox Liggins last year, I saw that he transferred. I'm like, that's a big loss. Rangy receiver, 6'3", right? That's college size. He put on, Coach Flakes said, 180 pounds now. So he's going probably D1. He's got a good shot. And when you lose someone like that, Coach Flakes is real high on his slot receiver, the freshman signs. But still, that's a guy, Cale Cox Liggins, who had 1,000 yards back-to-back receiving yards. So, but he's excited, man. I think Dan Allison and we got another guy writing for us that wrote for the Lobo on the Pit Press. You write. Eric Moulton's thinking of doing some writing on high school football. So again, I'm going to say this. You know what? Pay attention to the Pit Press. We cover high school. We cover college. There's so many, college with the Lobos, men and women's basketball, and then we have the Legend Series. There's so many things going on in the Pit Press, Nick, that I don't want people to miss out on it, man. There's sometimes I lose track.
No, for sure. I agree with that, Dad. And it's exciting. It's an exciting time of year, man. You know, it's been the dog days of summer. We finally got through them. High school football starts this week, and let's take a look at some of the matchups, Dad, at least in the Albuquerque metro area. On Thursday, we talked about St. Pius will take on West Mesa, 7 p.m., Community Stadium. You've got Cibola taking on Sandia. That should be an exciting one, Dad. You know, Cibola moves down to Class 5A this year, down from 6A. Sandia, a team that is loaded with transfers. They got a transfer coming in from the Houston area, Deion Session and Javen Smith, 2 transfers from Atrisco Heritage. This is a team that's going to have a lot of talent, and Sandia head football coach Tylen Wilder is excited about it. Also on Thursday, you're going to have this game. I think it's at Milne Stadium, Dad. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it'll be Rio Grande taking on Highlands. And then on Friday, we've got a slew of games. The My 50 game of the week is going to be Las Cruces taking on Rio Rancho at Rio Rancho, 7 p.m. On the NFHS network. And again, the My 50 TV game of the week. You got the Valley Vikings taking on the Albuquerque High Bulldogs. That's going to be on Comcast Channel 26 and on the NFHS network. And then at Community Stadium, it is Volcano Vista taking on Atrisco Heritage. Perhaps the game of the week, though, will be played at Cleveland High School. Centennial, team from Las Cruces, makes the trip up north, and they will take on the Cleveland Storm. Should be an exciting week 1 of high school football, Dad.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You mentioned Centennial coming up here, and the Storm, already a good team, got D'Angelo Mitchell, the running back, and some transfers from Rio Rancho. And, again, we talked about winning culture, and Coach Garza at Cleveland, Coach Ridenauer before that, who's the offensive coordinator now. Then, Nick, if that's not enough, Coach Greg Hennington is one of the offensive assistants over there at Cleveland as well, the former head coach at Los Lunas. So not only do they have, great, players, and they added a couple more, Coach Hennington, who I have a tremendous amount of respect for, they added him as coach. So the rich get richer. And Centennial, though, that's a good team. That's a very good opening game for my 50.
No doubt. Well, once again, thank you for tuning in to Huddle Up. Our two guests tonight, St. Pius head football coach Curtis Flakes and Volcano Vista head football coach Chad Wallen. For our director, Eric Moulton, my co-host, Ed Nunez, I'm Nick Nunez. Thanks again for tuning in, and have a great night.